the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast with your host, Jackie Pilosoff.
No one should have to go through a divorce feeling alone and isolated. That's why I created the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast. Every show is 30 minutes, and the guests are my Divorced Girl Smiling trusted professionals. They're so wonderful. Financial advisors, divorce attorneys, mediators, divorce coaches, therapists, and more. We talk about every subject that you can even think of having to do with divorce. The podcast is meant to empower you and inspire you and make you feel really, really confident so that you can have a good divorce outcome and a great post-divorce life. You can find the Divorced Girl Smiling Podcast pretty much anywhere podcasts can be found, and always at divorcedgirlsmiling.com. So grab a cup of coffee or a glass of wine and start smiling. Before we get started, I want to ask you a question. Are you sharing custody with someone who struggles with alcohol? If so, I want to recommend Soberlink, which is the most trusted tool to help keep your kids safe. Soberlink is a remote alcohol monitoring system that works like a high-tech breathalyzer. It uses facial recognition to verify identity, tamper detection to prevent cheating, and instant alerts so you're never left in the dark. Whether you're heading into mediation or modifying an existing agreement, family law professionals across the country, and I do as well, trust Soberlink to support child safety and rebuild trust between co-parents. There are no upfront costs with Soberlink devices. All you pay is the shipping. Protect what matters most to you and visit soberlink.com/DGS for Divorced Girl Smiling to get a $100 Visa gift card. I also want to tell you about a really good divorce attorney. Her name is Sandra Fava, and Sandra has been practicing divorce law in New Jersey for over 20 years. It's Sandra's ability to provide clear, practical advice and at the same time offer unwavering support through such a challenging time that has made her a successful and well-respected attorney. Sandra is both a certified mediator and a skilled litigator, and you can find out more about Sandra or have a consult with her by going to favalawNJ.com. And you can also find Sandra in the Trusted Professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling. There is no doubt that divorce is an extremely difficult thing to go through. And there are so many coping mechanisms we've talked about in other podcasts and so many ways to deal with the stress and the high conflict. But today's podcast is something that we have never talked about, and I am so excited because it makes so much sense to me. What we're going to talk about today are 5 techniques to help you recover from divorce difficulty. And these are somatic practices. So exciting. Please don't roll your eyes. Please don't turn off the podcast. You have to hear this because you're going to love it. It was my guest's idea. It's something that she's practicing and teaching, actually. My guest is Sherry Morris, who is a high conflict and co-parenting coach and the founder of her practice, Dear Divorce Coach. She's also the creator of her co-parenting program called Co-Parenting Compass. Hi, Sherry.
Hi, Jackie. It's a pleasure to be here.
Always nice to have you. Do you think people were rolling their eyes and thinking I'm shutting this off?
That's a great question. It was an interesting note when I heard you say it, because I do think people can see this as kind of woo-woo, right?
Well, people who say, oh, yoga, meditation, oh, it doesn't work. I can say firsthand, yes, it does. But I want to tell my listeners, we're not going to talk about yoga and meditation. We are going to give you specific tools that when you get stressed about your divorce, you can use these, and it's going to help you calm down, help you feel better, help you negotiate better, help you have a better experience, and help you have a better outcome. How does that sound?
Well, I sure hope that's true, Jackie. I'm going to try to come through.
All right. First of all, tell us what somatic practices are. What does that mean? What does it encompass?
So, somatic really comes from, I think, originally the Greek, having to do with the body. So, when we talk about somatic practices, we're talking about practices you do with your body. But the beautiful piece is we're integrating the mind and body. And I think that's really forward right now in all the literature, the evidence based literature about what helps calm us down.
And if you don't calm down, it's bad for your mental health, it's bad for your physical health, and it's very bad for your divorce.
And let's not forget, it's really bad for you. And that doesn't mean you in relation to your ex who deserves all the bad things you say to them. It hurts you physically. And by the way, it hurts your kids because you're role modeling that behavior for them.
Now, at the beginning of our conversation before we recorded this podcast, you said something to me. Don't let anyone else tell you how to feel. And that was kind of you telling me, because I said, What is somatic practices? What does that mean?" So how does that relate to what we're going to talk about?
So when I say to a client, don't let your spouse decide how you feel, I mean, you and only you get to take charge of your mind and your body with real evidence based techniques, real evidence based techniques to help you heal and to do better. So, what that means is you will self regulate. You're going to feel better. You're going to feel better, Jackie, and you're going to be responsive rather than reactive with others, including, by the way, with your difficult spouse or ex.
All right, so let's take an example. You're in mediation or you're at a court hearing and your ex is just being such a jerk to you, won't look at you, saying kind of snide, mean comments. And inside, you start to boil and you have all this anger. And all of a sudden, you're thinking about what a crappy husband he was, how he ruined 10 years of your life, how he never helped with the kids. You just have all this hatred. And nobody wants to be that person, by the way. But you're so angry, you're so resentful, and you can feel your body almost like tensing up. Is this the kind of thing we're talking about? Don't let anyone else tell you how to feel. How do you switch that button? Is that what we're going to talk about?
It is what we're going to talk about. And look, we are not talking about perfection. In the middle of any stressful situation, I don't expect you to go from 100 to 0. But what you can do is calm and self regulate. Take yourself from that sympathetic state of fight or flight to the more sympathetic state where you can feel a little bit better.
And when you feel better, you're going to be more composed. You're going to say things that are going to help you get a better outcome. And you're just going to be a happier person in general.
And you know what? They want to see you sweat. So
Mhm.
even if we're not living in relation to them, we do want them to know that we're going to be okay and that we are okay without them. And so even if a little bit you're leaning into that, note they will notice and they will not like it that they can't get your goat.
Love it. Let's start with the first somatic practice. And you called that, "What are you feeling right now?" So explain how that works.
So you described it so well. You're sitting in court, you're sitting in mediation, you're feeling tense. Some of us aren't even aware of how what we're thinking relates to what we're feeling in the body. So, a very simple practice in a stressful situation is just to notice. Do you have butterflies in your stomach? Are your shoulders up around the ears? Are you clenching your jaw? Very simple practices to connect the mind and body. Just noticing can help you shift.
So when you actually notice, how does that help? Because you stop doing it, like you pull your shoulders back or you exhale and say, "Okay, I'm not going to clench my jaw anymore."
That's exactly right. And it's a way for your body and mind to begin the integration. As we know, a habit becomes a practice, or a practice becomes a habit. So, what we want over time is for that to happen naturally. and your jaw will unclench because you realize you're clenching your jaw. Your shoulders will relax because you notice, and it'll happen without even thinking consciously about it. But it's a great place to start if you feel very disconnected from your body.
That is so similar to what they teach you in yoga. So there's a lot of people who say like, "Oh, I don't wanna do yoga, I'm fine." But yoga is and Sherry, you're the yoga teacher, I'm not, but I have been doing yoga for a very long time. And what they try to teach you, tell me if I'm right, is that they want you to condition your body so that even if you're not on the mat, meaning in a class, your body is going to be trained to do this deep breathing when you're feeling stressed. Take a deep breath, take a stretch, or whatever you do in yoga, they call it off the mat
Yes.
practice.
And most of yoga is off the mat, but you promised, Jackie, that we weren't going to talk about yoga.
Right.
Let's change that topic right now.
Right now before we lose some listeners. Okay, so we are going to take a break first. And then when we come back, we are going to talk about 4 more things, somatic practices that are going to help you recover from divorce difficulty. You're listening to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and my guest is divorce coach Sherry Morris. She specializes in high conflict and co-parenting. She's the founder of Dear Divorce Coach. If you like what you're hearing and you want to consult with her, you can go to deardivorcecoach.com. We'll be right back. Did you know that 52 million American adults currently own some form of cryptocurrency? That number includes so many divorcing couples whose divorce attorneys are not trained to do valuations of these currencies. Furthermore, they don't know how to find these assets, which are often hidden in a divorce. Ryan Settle, who is the founder of Block Squared Forensics, which is the first and only blockchain forensic and cryptocurrency auditing firm dedicated exclusively to family law, he recognized this gap in the divorce industry, and that's why he started the company. So if you have cryptocurrency or your ex does, I would highly recommend getting in touch with Ryan. And if you're a divorce professional that needs help in this area, definitely contact him. You can find Ryan at blocksquaredforensics.com or in the trusted professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling. I also want to tell you about a really good mortgage lender named Tracy Flanagan. Tracy is a vice president and mortgage loan officer for Green State Mortgage. She can take loans in all 50 states. She's been in the business for decades, and I really like Tracy a lot. I trust her. She's credible. She is so positive, and Tracy is truly dedicated to helping men and women who are going through a divorce either refinance or purchase a new home. If you want to find Tracy, you can find her at greenstate.org, and you can also find her in the trusted professional section of Divorced Girl Smiling. Welcome back to the Divorced Girl Smiling podcast. My name is Jackie Pilosoff, and I'm your host. Are you feeling stressed from your divorce? Of course you are. What we're talking about today are somatic practices to help you recover from the difficulty of divorce. My guest is divorce coach Sherry Morris, and Sherry specializes in high conflict and co-parenting coaching. And she's the founder of Dear Divorce Coach. And also, she has this great online parenting program called Co-Parenting Compass that you can actually do either with your co-parent or by yourself if you want a better co-parenting relationship. I mean, Sherry, you poured like years of your experience and knowledge into this course. So I love it.
Well, thank you for saying that. And it's really simple, which is what I love about it. It's sort of the best practices laid bare for everyone to have accessible. Even if you're co-parenting, you don't want to spend all your time on this issue. So if you take a look at the course, you'll see it's simple to implement these practices.
I love it. And you can find both Sherry and Co-Parenting Compass on the Divorce Girl Smiling website, divorcegirlsmiling.com. Co-Parenting Compass is under online co-parenting programs, and Sherry's under divorce coaches. Okay, moving on to the second technique to help you recover from divorce difficulty. And it is a butterfly hug. Okay, what is that?
We're going to need our hands, Jackie. So take your little fingertips,
I gotcha.
cross your hands across your chest. This is the hug. And by the way, this isn't so obvious, even though it seems obvious to people. You're somewhere you look like you're stretching, right? You're just hugging yourself. If you want to implement the second step of this, it's really from an EMDR technique, which is therapeutic, but you just tap. Tell me what you notice when you do this. And nothing is okay if you notice nothing.
No, actually, what I'm feeling by doing this is I feel like, oh, my skin's soft. I'm hugging myself. It feels kind of good. Like I needed a hug, so I hugged myself.
Beautiful, beautifully said. And that's it. You are comforting your mind and your body. And again, you're not making a big deal if you're in a public place, but you're maybe reaching over, you're figuring out a way to do it without being obvious if you don't want to make a big deal of it. But this is a known evidence-based technique that helps you self-regulate. What more do we want?
Well, I was just going to say, A, who cares what anyone else thinks? And B, this is evidence-based. Like, we're not just telling you, give yourself a hug. This is evidence-based that is going to lower your cortisol and your stress levels.
And by the way, if I may just insert, because I talk about evidence a lot, there are 2 books I want people to at least look up and understand. One of them is called Somatic Psychotherapy Toolbox. It gives you 125 worksheets and exercises.
Hold up the book.
Yes, let me show you the book. And I love it, this one, because it's spiral bound. So you literally open it. You can see how I have it tabbed. I use it in my practice. I use it myself. It's a great resource. And I would say sort of the industry standard for the somatic work. One other resource that I think people should have and read, if you haven't, many people have, The Body Keeps the Score. It talks about evidence that the body keeps the score, that the trauma you experience, things like divorce, impact your body. And there is a way through, but you got to address the mind and the body. So when I talk about evidence-based, these are 2 great resources. There are many more, but these are 2 I highly recommend and that I'm going to use in the course I'm teaching.
So, Sherry, when you're seeing clients, do you actually implement these somatic practices? Like, is this part of what you do or just for some people?
I usually try to start a session with a somatic practice, a grounding practice. I ask the client first, and this is a really important issue. Is this something you would like to do? Is this where you are in this moment? Getting that consent, you got to have someone's buy-in. Well, you have to have our buy-in, right? I ask you, do you mind hugging yourself, Jackie? It is an important part of the process. So I always start with, where are you today in your emotional self, in your body self? And then I pick up a couple of these practices just to get us grounded and started.
I love it. Okay, next one, hands over eyes.
Now, this one's a little more intrusive, but in a way, it can send exactly the right message if you don't care. But you literally put your hands over your eye sockets, and there's no particular method that you have to use, but really filtering. Beautiful, beautiful. And when you do that for 30 seconds, what are you really doing? You're calming the optic nerve. You're ridding yourself of external stimulation. I was afraid we lost you there, Jackie. I'm glad you came back. But the idea is it calms the nervous system. And
All right, give me an example of when hands over eyes would be a good time to do it.
well, first of all, not when driving. We're going to leave that off the list. But let's say you're sitting at your desk, right? And you've just gotten that email from your co-parent. You're like, not again. Take a minute to ground yourself. Put your feet on the floor, put your hands over your eye sockets, and just sit for 30 seconds. And I don't mean dwell on that email. I mean, get your physical body regulated, get your emotional body regulated. So there are many situations in which it works. Obviously, this one may feel like one you want to do more privately, but even if your kids are escalating you, when they come in with that comment about dad, mom said, right? Sit down and do that. Getting rid of external stimulation in so many situations is good for all of us.
Another time I would do that is if you happen to be like you get bad news. You get a call from your attorney that your ex is going for sole custody or something like that. Or something happens, or your friend calls and says, "Hey, I saw your ex. He was out on a date with so and so last night." And she's like your neighbor or something like that. It's a great, instead of just like freaking out and screaming and being pissed and just hands over eyes, let's just calm first and then decide how we want to react.
Beautifully said, Jackie. Exactly right. And by the way, there is a place for all of those other things, but you have a decision to make. Do you want to escalate or de-escalate yourself?
And we're not saying that you're not allowed to feel angry if one of these things happens. You have every right to go through those emotions, but you just want to do it the right way, not upsetting yourself, putting your body through stress, hysterically crying, like, maybe not feel it, react so harshly as you would try to stay a little bit calm, I guess.
And remember, this builds a habit. So the more you practice, the more naturally it becomes just that. And that becomes your response rather than reactiveness.
Okay, next one is system of Post-it notes.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, for many who are listening, if you're, of a certain generation, you say, that sounds so millennial. But let me tell you, it's also Gen X, Boomer, and Gen Z. What it requires is leaving yourself positive reinforcements wherever you may need it. I love bathroom mirrors because we're also self-critical as we're looking in and brushing our teeth or at our vanity doing makeup. Put little notes that remind you who you are and who you want to be. And they have so many delightful little designs now, so they can just be part of your decorating decor. And they're really just reinforcing, again, patterns that become habits. I've got this. I can do this. I am good enough. For many people, you constantly send yourself these self-critical messages. Do the opposite. Write it down and look at it.
Okay. So I got my Post-it notes right here. I'm a big Post-it fan. And by the way, Post-its can be baby boomer-ish too, or Gen X, because remember in Sex and the City when Carrie's boyfriend broke up with her on a Post-it?
Oh, that's right. How could I ever forget? Although I do forget his name, the guy, the writer.
Burger.
Thank you. Yes, he's a cutie pie, but I didn't like that.
But I think you have such a great point about the Post-its. I absolutely love Post-its. And I want to give one more tip about Post-its. Put them on your kids' mirrors and in your kids' drawers and surprise them, because kids love that and it'll make them feel so good, and they all need as much positive reinforcement.
I love that, Jackie. And I want to give an additional tip about for your kids. I used to put them in my kids' lunches and they would be like, Mom, that's so embarrassing.
But
And
they loved it.
they loved it. And I was like, goal achieved.
So cute. Okay, couple more is breath work.
Yeah, and again, we said we're not going to talk about meditation or breath or yoga, but let's just talk about mindfulness and breath work a little. I mean, simple stuff, although it can be a complex practice. You start noticing your breath. What happens when we're working in that sympathetic space? We go fight or flight. Our breath is shallow. We're getting excited. And that can even lead to a panic attack, right? If you've had one, you know how awful they are. We don't want those. So what we do is measured breathing. Sometimes it works if we're having trouble falling asleep. We can do a 4-7-8 breath, which you can read more about somewhere else. But the point is, there are all these different breath practices that that help us calm the mind and body. And if you're interested in those, there are a million of them. But one of the simplest ones you can do, Jackie, since you ask, is just notice. How are you breathing right now? My breathing's actually a little escalated because we're talking and we're excited about what we're talking about. But when you're sitting in court or reading an email or getting other bad news that you don't particularly like, you have the power to notice your breath and do something about it in that moment.
Well, it's funny you would just bring that up and say, like, did you notice your breathing? Because right when you started talking about that, I was realizing I was sort of having this anxious breathing because for my listeners who don't know this, my garage door opened, my dog just started barking. We're trying to record this podcast, and I'm thinking, are people hearing? So now I'm stressed. And then Sherry, when you said that, I paid attention. I was like, ooh, and I took a really deep breath and it felt great. And that's just a little stress. Can you imagine how much stress when you're going through a divorce? Well, we can both imagine it because Sherry and I both went through divorces, but it really helps. People don't think this works. They roll their eyes. They think we're crazy. I'm telling you, science backed research shows this will help you. You don't need an anti anxiety pill to calm you down. Your breath will achieve the same purpose, in my opinion.
Right. It's a fascinating thing that there is evidence. They've done studies. And what I would say is you mentioned something really key to this when you talked about breath work. We're bringing ourselves to this present moment, which is all mindfulness is, right? You were mindful in that moment when you noticed the garage door. You're like, oh, look how I'm breathing. And that's noticing. So if there's one universal theme of this podcast, I would say notice what's going on. That's the first and best step to begin the healing.
I love that. Okay, so I want to tell my listeners a story. Every morning I get up and walk my dog before I even have coffee, and that's not easy, but I have to do it. So we're out walking and, like, my brain tends to go to, "Okay, oh my gosh, I have meetings today at 11, 12, 12:31, 2, 3. What am I gonna" and I'm thinking, and I'm like, "Am I gonna be able to get everything done? I need to go to the grocery store." Okay, that's a terrible thing to do. So what I do when I find myself going down that path is I listen for the birds. I go, "Hey, have I heard the birds yet? Let me think." And I listen, and then I hear them and I go, "Ooh, the birds." And then I look at the trees and I look at the sun and I look at my dog and I really get back to noticing nature and simplicity and beauty. And then you don't even think about that. And that's what I urge people. Don't go down that path of what if he gets custody? What if he takes the kids? What if he gets remarried and I'm alone forever? These are the thoughts that go through your head when you're getting divorced. Is he ever going to talk to me again? Are my kids going to be screwed up from the divorce? Why go down that path? Listen to those birds, do your breathing, notice things. And I mean, isn't that what somatic practice is?
That's exactly what it is. And let me just say, if a simple way to distill that is when you have intrusive thoughts, do anything else. That's what I tell my clients. And you captured that beautifully with listen to the birds, pay attention to your surroundings. So whatever it takes to shift that thought away, do it. Whatever it is. And I just love that simple expression, do anything else. That's not serving you.
Oh my gosh, I have loved this conversation so much. I'm really inspired. Thank you, Sherry. Really appreciate your being here.
Jackie, it's always a pleasure. You're so insightful. I appreciate that we can share and process ideas together. Thank you for this opportunity.
If you want to learn more about Sherry or you want to work with her or sign up for her co-parenting course, Co-Parenting Compass, you can find her at deardivorcecoach.com. You can also find her co-parenting compass course at coparentingacademy.com, and you can find them both at divorcedgirlsmiling.com. And you can also go to Divorced Girl Smiling to listen to more podcasts, read articles, or sign up for my free 30-minute consult where I will listen to your story, no judgment, completely confidential, free, and then I'll connect you with divorce professionals who I think can help you. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you real soon.